Alright, Shalom. Giving all praise to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone. And salutations to you sincere laborers out there pushing this truth in all sincerity and faith and honesty. Alright, as you can see on the scene here, this is an article. It says, RT.com, the West sights are now clearly set on Iran. Alright, and the reason why this article is so beautiful because the elites had a plan. Okay, it was go into Iraq, undermine Syria, Afghanistan, I think Yemen, and I think that was about it. But Iran, the point is Iran was the last country that they said that they're going to go into. Okay, and pretty much overtake and undermine and invade. All right, and like Apostle El Tahar been saying for years. Okay, once you go into Iran, that's it. That's it. He said that's the two major prophecies we waiting on: the mark of the beast and for them to go into Iran. All right, and you can see, man, we at the time of the end, man. You brothers should be happy, man. This literally could be the year that we get up out of here, Lord's will. Right, if not this year, maybe next year, or maybe tomorrow, like the brother Ariel said. Okay, or maybe later on tonight. Who knows? But anyways, I'm just gonna get into this article. It's a pretty lengthy article, but I'm gonna do my best to make this thing skinny and straight to the point. All right, has a lot of meat in it. All right, so Lord will you brothers search this article up and read it for yourselves. Okay, it says the British-U.S. plan to weaken Iran via the proxy war on Syria has spectacularly backfired. Alright, so the British-U.S. plan to weaken Iran via the proxy war in Syria has backfired, okay? Because that was the war with Syria. It's like that was a war with Iran. It was a proxy war to go into Syria. Alright, because they knew Iran, was going to back Syria, so it was a proxy war. And it's backfiring, alright? So they was already at war with Iran, but it wasn't directly. And that's what we know as a proxy war. Okay, it says, now they are more desperate than ever to bring Iran to its knees. So they're desperate. When you're desperate, you make foolish decisions. And those foolish decisions is ultimately going to get America destroyed. Because they're going to do something so desperate, which is very, very, critical, because that's Russia's number one Middle Eastern ally. Okay. So that's ultimately what's going to get them destroyed, because Russia's going to get involved, all right? Like they did in Syria. But, Russia definitely going to go hard when they mess with Iran, It says Western think tanks and strategic institutes have been getting themselves in a cold sweat about Iranian influence for some time. All right, because Iran is one of those Middle Eastern countries, okay, that they're independent. All right, they haven't been invaded by America. All right, so they can influence other countries. It says in 2012, Frederick Keegan, former Bush advisor to Project for a New American Century, neocon, co-authored a report for the Institute for the Study of a War, warning the U.S. and its allies and partners in the region and beyond must not only understand Iran's regional strategy and influence, but also develop a coherent strategy of their own which to confront them. Considering the religious, economic, political, and diplomatic power of the two sides, it is simply unacceptable for the U.S. and its allies to allow even such progress as it has already made. It's like it made in these realms. Since Kagan made those comments 4 years ago, Iran's unacceptable progress has continued apace. So Iran is constantly, evolving, so to say. All right, they're constantly increasing its progress. All right, it's one of the number one oil suppliers. Okay, it's testing missiles. Okay, and also now has the Russian, I believe, is S-300 missile defense system as well. All right, so Iran is beefing up, so to say, powering up, man, booting up, so to say. It says its military cooperation with Russia, Syria, Iraq, and Hezbollah has developed into an increasingly formalized alliance, the so-called 4+1. All right, teaming up with Russia, Syria, Iraq, and Hezbollah, in which it played a leading role in the liberation of Syrian city for Aleppo earlier this year. All right, so it played a leading role helping Syria gain back Aleppo, one of a critical city in Syria, one of the biggest strongholds. All right, that the Syrian army and the ISIS terrorist group was fighting over. It says in Iraq, the Shiite militias its sponsors have been the indispensable vanguard of many of the battles Islamic State, and it wields considerable influence over the rebels' forces in both Bahrain and supposedly Yemen. The fall of Mosul will only consolidate this power. Okay, like I said, I want to get to the point. Alright, it says, indeed, according to The Guardian, the territory west of Mosul that is currently being secured by the Iranian-backed popular mobilization forces in one of the final pieces of jigsaw, completing the arc of influence stretching all the way from Tehran to the Mediterranean. Alright, such a land bridge to the Mediterranean will significantly strengthen Iran's independence and ability to withstand, for example, any future blockades or sieges. This is making Western planners particularly nervous. Alright, so they saying if they wanted to invade Iran, it's getting harder because they're strengthening their independence. Okay, they're stretching forth their boundaries, so to say. It says, for example, it's like this is making Western planners particularly nervous. This is significantly weakens the West's ability to control the corral the Iranians, with a long-time sitcom advisor Ali Qadari, for example, claiming that such a development should trouble every Western leader and our regional allies because this will further embolden Iran. Forbes, Forbes magazine got a quote in here. Meanwhile, wrote that Iranian influence in Iraq has the potential to destabilize global oil policy and global oil market. Okay, because I don't know, was it back in it's 2017 now, maybe 2015, or maybe early 2016, when they took those sanctions off Iran, and man, they started pumping so much oil into the economy. All right, gas went down, quite a bit because there was so much supply of oil in there. All right, and the demand wasn't there. Okay, it says Iran influence in Iraq has the potential to destabilize global oil policy and the global oil market, given that the two countries' combined oil reserves almost equal those of Saudi Arabia. All right, so Iran has a lot of oil reserves. Okay, it says, and America wants control of that. Ultimately, they want control of that. All right, they want full control over the Middle East, but they see Iran is that obstacle from giving them that power. Okay, it says, for here as ever lies the empire, real fear that the people of the Middle East might actually gain control over their own resources. So this is Iran. That's why Iran is a big problem. Okay, it says, and start using them strategically for their own development. Genuine independence also. It's like genuine independence has always been the fear of the region's British, U.S., and Israeli overlords, and Iran's potential make this independence a greater threat than most. So that's why they so set on going into Iran. All right. It says the Foreign Affairs Committee of the British House of Commons spelled this out in a report in 2014. Iran has the potential to be a major international power. It could be the engine room of the Middle East. The engine room of the Middle East. So it's going to be what runs the Middle East, and they don't want that. All right. That's why Iran is the target. It's been a target for the longest. It just hasn't been at a point in time for them to go into Iran yet. All right. It wasn't that time yet. But now is the time. The harvest is ripe. Okay. It says it lies in a very significant strategic position with Iraq to the west, former Soviet states to the north, which have only relatively recently gained independence, Afghanistan, Pakistan to the east, and the Persian Gulf. A prime route for oil exports, okay? It's like exports. And the Persian Gulf is a prime route for oil exports to the south. So they pretty much, they want control of that Persian Gulf. And Iran been making little threats here and there throughout the years, that they're going to close off the Persian Gulf. If they close off the Persian Gulf, all right, and the Persian Gulf is next to Iran, because Iran were the Persians, but their name was changed, a couple decades ago. It says to the south, it has a large youthful population. Okay, here's a population, 75 million, youthful. That's the key word too. Large and youthful population. 75 million or more of whom 55% are aged under 30. All right, so they got young people, man. 75 million or more. It says Iran ranks 76th out of the 187 countries classified under the UNDP Human Development Index based upon assets of life expectancy. All right, so there's 76 out of 187 about life expectancy, who living the longest. It says access to knowledge and standard of living, placing it higher than any of its land neighbors. Okay, so it's pretty much more sophisticated than any of the Middle Eastern countries. Okay, that's why America wanted so bad. It says youth literacy is near universal. This country economy is relatively diverse with supplies of essential commodities and engineering, research, and manufacturing base. Iran has substantial resources of natural gas, second only to the Russian Federation. So it's second in natural gas. It says, and enough oil to enable it to be a leading exporter. Okay, enough oil to enable it to be a leading exporter. Unacceptable progress indeed. That's what that's some sarcasm. Unacceptable progress. All right, so they don't want Iran to get to that apex. All right, so to say. It says clearly the U.S. has been rattled by Iran for some time. Contrary to Trump's exertions, for example, the Iran nuclear deal was less a gift to Iran than changing of tack to a longer game, allowing the West to cultivate the fifth column in the country in preparation for a future attack. Okay. It says, yet U.S. belligerence has apparently been stopped under Trump with new sanctions, an enormous ramping of hostile rhetoric, and the dispatch of another warship to Iran's borders in January following an entirely legal Iranian missile test. And this is the point right here. Not the point, but this is the key point. It says, but most worryingly, the U.S. has been sending large numbers of U.S. troops to Iran's neighbors in recent weeks. So in recent weeks, large numbers. So Lord will, man, that they going to Iran soon. It says the initial deployment of 500 U.S. troops in Syria was followed on March 9 by a further 400. Lucky. With Washington Post announcing on March 15 that another 1,000 are on the way, and he did an article on that they send 1,000 troops to Syria. Right? That's just for Iran, man. That's just for Iran. Remember, it's a proxy war for Iran. Iran is the key goal. It says these are just a part of massive flotilla of almost 5,000 U.S. soldiers currently en route to the region. 5,000 U.S. soldiers. So, hey, man, they want to invade Iran, man. Like the article said, the West is set on pretty much taking down Iran. With troops from Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the UAE also being considered. This was revealed just one day after Trump met Saudi Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Alright. It says the real reason is to cement U.S. influence and confront the Iranians. This is the U.S. ground invasion, which the Gulfists have been calling for years. So they want a ground invasion, man. They want to invade Iran, man. And it's not going to happen. The Russians are not going to allow that. Okay? It's the reason why Iran is the most sophisticated country in the Middle East. It's a reason why. It's a reason because Russia has invested tons of money into them. So is China. Okay? So a threat to Iran will be a threat to Russia. And that's Russia's cash cow, so to say. So you can't they're not gonna be able to do this, man. This is gonna get them destroyed. It's gonna get America destroyed. Alright? Oh, Babylon, that ought to be destroyed. And this is gonna be that key to America's destruction. Okay, let me get to the point here because this video's become a lot longer. It says okay, but deploying troops to Iraq and Syria to contain Iranian influence is just the start of it. Ultimately, Trump's cabinet of anti-Iran warmongers seek to destroy the Islamic Republic itself. Their difficulty is how to convince Russia to go along with this, which is not going to happen. Syria has taught them that without Russian acquaintances, regime change can be very difficult indeed. Alright? Because they know Russia. Come on, you can't get Russia to go along with this, man. It says the Wall Street Journal recently ran an article on Trump's plans to drive a wedge between Iran and Russia. So that's his plan. So you don't think he knows that, man? You hear putting in an article in Russia Today. This average author of this article, he knows that. So you don't think Putin knows that, man? What's the name of the guy that did this article? Dan Glasbrook. Okay. So you don't think he knows? If this guy knows, you don't think Putin knows that, man? Let's be real here. It says Trump plans to drive a wedge between Iran and Russia, quoting a European official that there was daylight between the two countries. Indeed, differences do seem to have emerged over, for example, Assad's future in Syria, and as political analyst Eric Draster has pointed out, the two countries have a certain rivalry over supplying Europe's energy markets. Okay. Nevertheless, it would be utter suicide for Russia to go along with any U.S. attempts to undermine its number one Middle Eastern ally. Alright? Like I said, it would be suicide for Russia to go along with any U.S. attempts to undermine its number one Middle Eastern ally. So it's suicide. It just said that's Russia's number one Middle Eastern ally. So that's it on that, man. It's a little bit more on this article. Let me just read this last part. It says Trump rushing of troops to Syria has nothing to do with any common front against ISIS, and everything to do with weakening Iran. And in the end, this means weakening Russia too. Oh, that's beautiful. In the end, it means weakening Russia too. So you think Russia's going to allow America to weaken it? Hell no. Them Russian soldiers can't wait to get their hand on these American soldiers, man. Alright. Now I'm just get one precept to close out on. Alright. This is Romans 13 verse 11. And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to wake out of sleep. For now our salvation is nearer than we believed. That's why scriptures say watch as well as pray. That this is what's going to keep you occupied. This is what's going to keep that flame going. keep watching, man. Keep watching, all right? Because we almost out of here. America's going to be destroyed. Death to America, all right? You brothers stay strong. Shalom.